Welcome back to another edition of the Breakdown, you all. Today I'm continuing that series where I said I was going to give you an early look at the offense and defense, special teams of Alabama for the upcoming season. And yeah, I'm going to have a lot of fun doing this one because I think a lot of people don't realize how much Alabama is going to change defensively. Although we tend to change defensively a lot, with all the draft picks and whatnot. But this one's going to be particularly interesting to see what Alabama does in terms of replacing the guys who left. Now, like I said, this is not going to address the recruiting aspect of it. I'll probably make a separate video. No, I will make a separate video regarding the recruiting changes that will influence the roster as well. But today, I'm just going to talk about the departing guys and what the positions are going to look like for the 2018 season with the guys who return. And mainly the more important guys, I'm still going to bring up some numbers too. So the biggest thing with defense for Alabama for this upcoming 2018 season is the depth. So I'm going to start with the defensive line. They're going to go into the outside linebackers, the middle linebackers, and then finally the secondary. So let's jump right into it. Now from the defensive line, Alabama's losing Deshaun Hand at right end, losing Deron Payne, the nose guard, and the backup nose guard, Josh Frazier. They're both gone. Now returning, Alabama has Isaiah Buggs returning. It's going to be a senior this year. Johnny Dwight, who's the only other nose guard besides those two. So Alabama's really lacking depth on nose guard. More on that in a moment. Number 99, Raekwon Davis. Everyone knows him, the big guy over there. And then, of course, his backups, Quentin Williams. Then we have LeBron Ray backing up one of those end spots. And then the forgotten man, Fedarian Mathis, is also there. So the projected starters I have on defense for Alabama is Raekwon Davis, Johnny Dwight, and Isaiah Buggs, as it stands right now. Now, the crazy thing is, so you count those guys starters, Alabama only has 3 other guys who can play defensive line, or at least who've played significantly in a game behind them. And those guys will be the true sophomore LeBron Ray, redshirt sophomore Quentin Williams, and then Fedarian Mathis if he ever gets any significant playing time, which he hasn't to this point. So Alabama lost 3 guys and they're this thin on the defensive line. This tells you that Alabama's defensive line will be particularly thin this year, which it's not a good thing. It's what not Alabama's not used to that after having that 2015 defensive line, having so many guys who came in waves. 2016 still had some depth, and then 2017 this year we kind of saw the depth start to tail off, and now 2018 it could really have an impact. Specifically, like I said, in that nose guard spot. Deron Payne, first-round talent, amazing guy, completely underappreciated for the majority of his time until these playoffs where everybody kind of saw him just announce himself on the stage. And then his backup, Josh Frazier, also played pretty well, but he wasn't nowhere near as good as Deron Payne. Now, if Johnny Dwight was the backup to the guy who was nowhere near as good as Deron Payne, that tells you that drop-off is going to be pretty significant between Deron Payne and Johnny Dwight. And I like Johnny Dwight, but he is not Deron Payne. So Alabama's going to have to figure out how to, one, get some more production out of Johnny Dwight and getting this line to live up to what they need for their style of defense. Or they're going to have to count some other guys, develop some new guys. Either way, the defensive line is actually something very important to watch. The ends should be good with Raekwon Davis and Isaiah Buggs, but the middle is so important to the Alabama defensive line, especially when they're in base defense, which we don't do a lot, but that will come down. It'll be important when we play teams who like to run the ball and also teams who just like to take advantage and move you out of the way. So that's something to see. Now we're moving on to the linebackers. We're going to start with the outside linebackers first. Sam and Jack. Anthony Jennings, who hurt his knee in the playoffs, but he played really well in that Clemson game. He's going to be back as a redshirt junior. And Christian Miller, I believe is going to be a redshirt senior, he's going to be back, along with an amazing play of Terrell Lewis, who is good to have him back, to see him back on the field after being out for most of the year with the injury, but then coming back in the playoffs and wreaking havoc as well, along with Miller. Those 3 along at the outside linebacker spot make a very strong pass rush for Alabama. Not to mention that you got guys like Jamie Mosley, who played for them when they were injured, who comes in and provides depth. Then you got the true freshmen like Christopher Allen, who played a little bit last year, but then eventually fell down the depth chart when these guys came back. Not to mention guys who didn't really play at all. Ben Davis, who's a 5-star redshirt freshman this past year, and Vandarius Cohen, who's a true freshman. So these guys are all here. But Mekhi Brown, a lot of you remember him from the national championship game. He had an interesting situation going on, but he transferred to Tennessee State, so he's gone. But even with him gone, Alabama still has like 6 or 7 guys at the outside linebacker spot. And like I said, that's not even to mention any new people who may be coming in. But either way, outside linebacker and linebackers actually in general, but specifically outside linebackers should be okay for Alabama in this upcoming season in terms of numbers and guys who can play. Anthony Jennings, it's kind of like the hybrid role. He's kind of like short, stocky guy. Some people say he reminds them of a Courtney Upshaw type, and I can see that. He definitely has the build to maintain leverage against the run, and he pass rushes particularly well, as he showed in the Clemson game. Not to mention Christian Miller and Terrell Lewis. Man, these guys provided quite an impact in the pass rush in the playoffs. Specifically, Terrell Lewis. I'm most excited about seeing Terrell Lewis do a lot of pass rushing, speed rushing this year. Now, one interesting thing is that one guy who I follow on Twitter, and if you like Alabama football, love Alabama football, like to know more things too. I just found him recently during the playoffs, and I was like, I'm kicking myself. I should have known about him before. He kind of sees things. We kind of see things analytically, and he puts a lot of his thoughts on Twitter. I'll put it up here. Is Ben. He talked about Alabama maybe doing a little bit more nickel, where you have 2 outside linebackers on the field. I can see where being Anthony Jennings and Terrell Lewis a lot. Both of those guys pass rushing on the field together. That would be amazing, along with only playing 2 defensive linemen, which would cover for the thin depth that they're going to have this year. So that is a possibility seeing if Alabama will play more out of the nickel this year as opposed to the general 3-4. Now moving on to the middle linebackers. Alabama's going to lose Sean Deion Hamilton and Rashaan Evans. Those are big losses. These guys, they were seniors. They had leadership. They knew the defense. They provided a lot of things. In Alabama, the linebackers were injured so much. We kind of missed the importance of that because players just go in and out. But we saw it kind of impact them as they got lower and lower in the depth chart. Some guys didn't know what they were doing as well. Like Dylan Moses, he was a true freshman. He had the talent, but he was out of position a little bit sometimes. He kind of made a mistake here and there, but he made up for it with his talent. Then you got Mack Wilson, who's got back. So Mack Wilson's going to be back along with Dylan Moses. They're going to have a sophomore and a junior. I believe that Dylan Moses will be the starting Mike linebacker, and Mack Wilson, because he's a little bit smaller and faster, I believe his most natural position is probably the will linebacker spot, which is one who gets to roam around and move. So to put that in perspective, Sean Deion Hamilton was the Mike this year, and Rashaan Evans was the will, and he sometimes did like pass rushing on the outside. Whereas this upcoming year, I see Dylan Moses being the Mike and Mack Wilson being the will linebacker. The most likely backups for them, not mentioning the recruits or anything right now, would be Keith Holcomb, Joshua McMillan. 2 guys who aren't as athletic as the guys who are ahead of them, obviously, but they know what they're doing. They know the scheme. Keith Holcomb particularly is a smart guy. When he got in early in this past season, he was filling in pretty nicely for the guys, and he was pretty good at pass coverage. But later on in the season, when he was pressed into the starting role, it seemed like maybe the pressure got to him a bit, and he was kind of hesitant in the Mississippi State game, and he didn't regain any significant snaps for the rest of the season. So hopefully he can break out of that and provide quality depth for Alabama again this upcoming season. So we're hoping that Joshua McMillan can take a few steps forward as well. So we see that so far, the Alabama outside linebackers have the most depth and are probably looking to provide quite a lift for the team defensively in the front 7. The middle linebackers, as long as they're healthy, should be a really solid unit, a really talented unit. Just imagining the possibilities of Dylan Moses and Mack Wilson together, that's going to be something great. Now, moving on to the secondary, just to go ahead and round this video on out, Alabama losing just about every starting player in the secondary. No, seriously, Alabama is losing every starting player in the secondary. The cornerbacks, Anthony Averett and Levi Wallace, are gone. Anthony Averett was the starting boundary corner. Levi Wallace was the starting field corner. Tony Brown, who was also the starting nickelback, he is also gone. Although some people may be happy about that in terms of, like, sometimes his play He made kind of some head scratching moves at time. At times he showed his talents, but at times he did the wrong thing. So it might, some of us might be happy that he's gone from the nickelback spot. But no, we love Tony. I love Tony. But he did get that spot taken by Shaheem Carter in the middle of that Georgia game. The starting safeties: Minka Fitzpatrick, Ronnie Harrison, and Hootie Jones are all gone. So Alabama will come into the 2018 season with a completely new secondary. The starters, I'm projecting the starters to be Trayvon Diggs at the field corner spot, Shaheem Carter, the starting nickelback, and Jared Maiden, I don't know why I'm saying Maiden, should be the starting boundary corner. If you don't know the numbers, Trayvon Diggs is number 7, Shaheem Carter is number 5, Jared Maiden is number 21. Now, I expect them to be the starters because they were the top backups this whole season. We actually saw them come in and play a lot. If you didn't know, actually, in the first game, Trayvon Diggs actually started that game, but he was kind of inconsistent, so they put in Levi Wallace, and Levi Wallace took over. So unless the newcomer, well, I'm not going to talk about him because he's technically a part of a recruiting class, but he was practicing with the team, so I can mention him. Unless the newcomer Savion Smith comes in and take over a spot, probably at boundary corner, and then I expect those 3 to be the starter. Other cornerbacks who are on the roster who played a little bit earlier in the season, not so much late, and one guy who really didn't play a lot at all was Nigel Knott. He's also still there as a 4-star corner from a couple of years ago. He's still on the team, and then Kyrie McDonald, who was a true freshman this past year. So I don't know who is exactly behind those guys who are projected to be the starters. So the Alabama secondary, the cornerbacks in particular, are particularly thin. And they said it's not talking about the recruiting class coming in yet. Going to provide some boost, but we'll get there when we get there. But as of like guys who know who can play and provide depth, we don't know. Now let's go into the safeties. Like I said, all the starting safeties are gone. The starting safeties most likely, I believe, will be free safety will probably be Deontay Thompson. He can lay a hit, so it's funny because he can lay a hit. I actually might see him moving over and playing strong safety. He kind of does that a bit already. It's like Alabama safeties kind of do a little bit of both, or maybe they're just so versatile that it looks like they're doing both. But he can hit. He's pretty rangy. He's aggressive. He really tries to drop some passes. That guy can move. Number 14, he'll be a starter, and I think Xavier McKinney, who's a true freshman this last year, but who got into play as a backup, number 25, I believe he also will start. Seems like he's a pretty good coverage safety, like he'll be over the top and being able to get across the field. So I expect those 2 to be the starters with Daniel Wright, number 3, who's a really hard hitter. Maybe he'll back up Deontay Thompson. And then only other person I know is Keaton Anderson, number 31. Only diehard Alabama fans know him because he's a reserve. He rarely comes in, but when we're down numbers and we're really far down the depth chart, or at least in terms of like getting late in the game and putting in third stringers and whatnot, Keaton Anderson is the one who comes in at safety. And to be honest, those 4 players, Daniel Wright, Deontay Thompson, Xavier McKinney, Keaton Anderson, those are the only players really who significantly played safety this year outside of the first 3 guys. So Alabama lost 3 safeties, and only 4 guys really can come back and provide any type of depth for the safety position for this upcoming year. So it's going to be very important that Alabama develop depth. So as you can see, this draft and graduation period, it really took a toll on the Alabama defensive line, middle linebackers, and the secondary. That is going to be very, very important to see what Alabama does with that for this upcoming year. What do you all think? Who do you think, which group do you think can stand to, improve, or which one, I will say this, which one do you think will come out and be a pleasant surprise, outside of, when you think about the depth situation? And, most people are going to be like, oh, well, Alabama could be thin there. Which one do you think will come out and surprise people? And which one do you have the most excitement for? Which player defensively, I guess from even each group, which player from each group of the team are you looking forward to playing this year? And what do you think they'll bring to the team? So that's it for the Alabama early look at the defense for the 2018 season. The next video will be about some of the recruiting needs and things, and I'll probably try to update that when the class is finished. But that's it for now. Leave your thoughts in the comments. See you next time.